Alright, what is up? Today I'm talking about the Kizer suspension frames. These recently came back out on the market. They came out about a year ago and there were some issues with the hardware, but supposedly that's all fixed and they're ready to roll now. So I got the pleasure of trying these out over the weekend. A few different spots. I had a great time with these. In this video I'll be reviewing the kind of history of them, how to put them together, and going over my thoughts and feelings about my first couple sessions on these frames. Alright, quick rundown of the history of suspension frames. These are the physics. They came out, I don't know the exact year, but they was early 2000s. These were pretty much the original suspension frames on the market years ago. And they worked pretty simply by independent arms within the frame that would move, that were mounted by these bolts here. And there were bushings that went up in between these brackets and the frame to give it resistance. A few more years down the road, Kizer came out with their own suspension frame. A lot of different technology in this compared to the physics. These frames were three pieces. You had your H-block, then you had your two frame extensions that went on the ends. They were mounted through the axle holes here. And in between the axles, the H-block, and the frame extension, again there was a buffer pad that went in between that these pushed up against, which gave you your resistance for your suspension. In more recent years, Create Originals came out with their own frame called the CRS frame. It's just a Create Original suspension. These are slightly different than the physics and the new Kizers, where they don't have brackets within the frame. There are bushings that mount within the frame wall itself, and the axles push up against the bushings, giving it the resistance. I have yet to skate these, but I will hopefully skate these soon so I can do a comparison between these and the new Kizer frames, but these are a completely different style than the Kizer suspension. Now, fast forward to recent times. Again, these were released almost a year ago, but there were problems with the hardware. The brackets inside here, the metal brackets, were apparently snapping, from what a couple different skaters were talking about that I got to use them. I wasn't able to try myself, but they were breaking apparently, so they got recalled almost immediately. Then about a year later now, we've got them back out on the market, ready to roll, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on a set of these, and I got to take them out over the weekend and get a couple different sessions in. Alright, I've already assembled these and skated them obviously a couple times, but I wanted to go over and show you some tips and tricks I learned when I was installing these originally. So I'm going to tear these down, at least half of it. I'm going to take half this apart and then show you how to put it back together. One tip when taking these apart, after you remove the axle screw that goes in between the front and second wheel, the hole was kind of small in there. It's a smaller axle, and the axle head is really tight in here. There's no good way of poking this through. If you try to put your Allen wrench in here, it's too big for the hole, so you'll end up stripping out your thread. So I'm going to be using a really thin screwdriver to punch this through with my mallet to get the axle back out. Axle has been removed, and this is the square axle that mounts in there that holds the brackets in place. I'm using my big set of pliers to help pull the wheels out. Alright, so I'm not going to take this out right now, but you'll see a washer that fits up in here. I have an extra one. Somehow I had an extra one in the bag. But these are your rubber buffers that go up in the frame. They are shaped where you have a kind of a wedge shape. The wedge shape is going to point upwards. The wider, thicker side is going to go down in between the frame walls, and will sit on top of a little bridge piece of plastic in the center there. So again, this is an up-close version of the one that's already in there. Oops, bumped my camera. But you see how it fits down in there. Take note that you have these little square pieces on the side. Those are going to be facing towards the front and towards the back on the side of that piece there. That's pushed all the way down in as far as you can get it. Alright, you have your brackets. I have the wheels mounted to them right now. It's actually easier to install the wheels before you put them in the frames, which I found out later, but this is what it looks like when it's on the bracket. Take note that there are two different sized brackets too. So when you get your hardware bag, the hardware is going to come in a little bag like this. You dump it out, you're going to have 8 of these brackets. You're going to have 4 short ones, and that's the length from the axle to the rear. You're going to have 4 longer ones. Hard to tell in the video, but this one is probably a few centimeters longer. You'll be able to figure it out once you lay them out. So you have 4 of each, and you're going to be using 4 short ones for the center wheels and the 4 longer ones for the outer wheels, which I'll be showing you how to do now. Alright, so you have your frame here, and also it's worth pointing out that you want to bolt your frame down to your boot before you get started. As you can see, once your hardware is in place, there is no access to your frame bolts. Make sure you attach these before you put your hardware in. Alright, I'm going to start with the wheel with the shorter brackets. And you're going to put the flat side will be up, and you're kind of rounded underneath. You'll see this little square indent right here in the end. That's going to line up with the square peg sticking off the side of your rubber bushing inside your frame. Just going to drop down in here. It's very, very tight fit. Not a lot of room, so it can be frustrating. Again, like I said, it helps having the wheel installed. Gives you something to hold on to when you're putting the bracket in and taking the bracket out. It's just a good idea to go and have those already installed on there. So I got the one bracket in place, and you can see it's butted up against that bushing inside there. And we're going to repeat the process for the second bracket. These eyelets right here that stick out where the axle goes through are opposite of each other between the 2 brackets, so they will interlock, making a nice connection in between the 2. And boom. So the 2 brackets are in place. Now comes the fun part. This is the part that's going to drive you absolutely insane. Just telling you that up front, you're going to struggle with this part. It's a pain in the arse. It's like Dave would say, pain in the arse. Arse? Pain in the arse. Yes. So we're going to attempt to install the axle through the frame now that holds the brackets in place. I'm going to recommend using, if you have a axle tool, this is the Sonic one. I live by these. I've got 3 or 4 of these laying around the house. Get them from Oak City skate shop all day long. But I like these specifically because they have a nice tapered shaft on here, which helps you align your bearings. And they're definitely going to come into play with aligning these brackets. So I've found that it's easier to push it through the circle side. That's going to be the side that you're going to be actually threading the cap on. The square end is going to come in on the grind side of it, but it's easier if you put your tool through this side, because as you start to guide this through, it's a very tight fit, and you can back this tool out as the axle goes into the frame. Again, very, very tight fit. I have put them together already, so it makes it a little bit easier every time you do it. like I said, easy. So, rubber mallet. This is going to be your best friend. If you don't have a rubber mallet, a hammer works too. But I'm just using rubber mallet so I don't tear up my hardware as much. Not that it matters. I'll be grinding on anyways, but rubber mallet's good. I'm going to need to actually hammer in the axle to get it through the hardware. I could not find any way around that, and so good luck. And every time I've done it, I've knocked it in. The square axle head doesn't line up completely, so again, breaking out the handy pliers to line the square up with the hole. And then give it a nice little tap. So now the square head is in the frame. Both wheels are in place, the brackets are in place, and the axle is all the way through. I'm going to put in the axle head to tighten it down. And the first time you tighten them down, it's going to be, feels like there's a lot of resistance, and I think that's just natural with it breaking in the alignment. So the first time doing it's going to feel kind of unnatural when you do it, but it will line up and pull itself through. The second time I'm doing it now is way easier than the first time. There you have it. Frame's all installed again. All the brackets are in place and ready to roll. Another quick tip. If you go to take your wheels off, please take note that the axle heads go in behind the frame. So you'd think with the way these oval frame holes are spaced that the wheel would kind of travel that path, but that's not how it works. When you apply pressure to these and they flex in, this head goes in behind the frame. Same thing with the middle wheels. Push down on it, the axle head goes in behind the frame and does not travel linear with the hole there. So when you go to take this axle bolt out, make sure that the head is not behind the frame, because when you go to start bringing it out, it's going to be pushing up against that frame wall and you can potentially crack your frame. So again, make sure that it is lined up within the hole and it's going to make it through the clearance without breaking. If you need to just do basic wheel maintenance, I'd recommend popping the axle out and doing it. But you can also take the bracket axle out too. But when you go into the whole thing, you're getting everything lined back up. So again, quick and easy. If you take the axle out, just make sure it is lined up with this hole and you won't have any problems. Alright, frame performance. Couple key features about this I can't stress enough. I would say I'll start with my downside first. My first two negatives. One, they are kind of expensive. They cost a lot of money. I purchased mine directly from Powerslide. I bought them from them and ordered them from them. So I had the cost of the frames, the hardware, not very cheap, plus shipping. Plus also had an import fee on top of all that. So all said and done, they were very, very, very expensive. So that was definitely one of the negative sides. And my second negative on these is just the overall process of installing the hardware for the first time. It is very frustrating, very difficult, especially for someone that struggles with regular frames, setting up normal frames. You're going to have an absolute horrible time putting these together. But like I said, the second time of putting the parts together, it was a little bit easier than first. But make sure you have tools ready. Again, I've got pliers for a lot of different things. I've got my hammer or rubber mallet. I've got extra screwdrivers, a lot of different tools. So come prepared. It's going to be frustrating at first. And again, make sure that you mount the frame before you put the hardware in. So, things I like about the frames. If anybody knows me, knows I've been skating over 30 years, almost 31 years now. I've always been a either freestyle frame or anti-rocker skater. All this time I've kind of dabbled with flat frames here and there, done different reviews on them. I've never really found one that I truly enjoyed. I would say after my first two sessions, these are probably the closest thing to something that I would skate on normal. And there's a couple reasons why I think that works that way. For starters, my biggest issue with skating flat has nothing to do with the grinding so much. I understand the way you need to get your feet in position so you don't get wheel bite. My problem with skating flat and grinding is that I'm used to skating freestyle. When I go to jump, I have full control of my feet. Oftentimes when you skate flat, your wheels are on uneven surfaces, so your foot kind of rockers around. A lot of frames have natural banana rocker built into them also. My feet always feel unstable when I'm skating flat. You do not get that in these. Obviously with the suspension, when you go to push down real hard with your feet, all the wheels squish down and you make even contact with all four wheels. So very solid for you to jump from, and also very solid to land. So that point alone has made these probably my favorite flat frame that I've tried to date. I'm not going to make a big leap and say that I'm a flat frame skater now, but these definitely checked all the boxes of something I'd be looking for in a flat frame for a freestyle skater like myself. The angled soles for me work really well with a flat frame setup too, specifically these. The groove lines up awesome with the Royale groove, and the way the sides of the frames match up with the sides of the sole plates, the tapered. They have a very good alignment, so it allows me to get super boot down, which I think is key to skating flat and grinding flat. Being able to get that really nice slow boot down will keep you from getting as much wheel bite. So I think between the frames and the sole plates matching up the way they do, absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal pairing. All right, now I've heard some people say that the frames look really tall. In actuality, they're not. This here is one of the Kizer Shift Unlimited. When you put them side by side, the suspension frame skeleton is actually slightly shorter than the Shift Unlimited frame. So anyone that's got to skate these will know they're kind of tall on the sidewalls, but overall ride height is still pretty low, and you're going to get the same thing out of the skeleton here. Also, the skeleton is identical, 100% identical to the Soul Frame 65. So if you've skated these, they are the same as well. And they are actually, these are set up to have the suspension kits put in also. So it's the exact same frame. The only difference is this has the sole wings already attached. And when you put your height of these side by side, they are the exact same frame height and all. And if you count the sole plate on the Soul Frame 65. So if you cut these little wings off, the overall height from bottom of frame to boot would be the same as these. Another great feature to this frame, if you don't like the suspension frame and you want to skate a mana rocker or whatever you want to do, they use the same hardware that comes in the Kizer Shift frames, which I've got an extra set sitting right here. You have your oblong head here, which goes into the side of the frame, and you have your frame bushing here, frame spacer. That's exactly the same as on the Shift Unlimited. You can get it separate. The suspension frames do not come with this hardware, but if you have the Shift frames already, or if you want to order the hardware separate, you can, and skate these as a normal frame with no suspension hardware in them. Overall, very versatile frame. Again, so many different combinations you can do with this. If you have any questions on these, please leave a comment on the video. Please make sure you give the video a like. Please hit the follow if you're not following yet for more content down the road. And overall, very pleased with these frames. I had a great time skating these again the last 2 days in a row. A couple quick sessions with these. I did a lot of skating in between. I went old school and skated from spot to spot, on top of also hitting the spots I went to. So did a lot of skating around just to kind of get the feel of these and get the understanding of how these work. And again, I couldn't be any happier. Overall, like I said, they are a bit pricey, but to me, I've actually absolutely loved the experience of skating these as a flat frame setup, and just the feeling suspension work. It was a lot of fun. So not very often I come across a product that gives me that excitement to get out there and really do a lot of stuff. I'm a solo skater, so it's good to find things that I'm interested in that give me that motivation to get out there and roll. So Again, if you like this, please hit the like button, leave comments. If you got any questions, if you want to know anything about the parts I've showed you, any questions on them, feel free to drop a comment. But other than that, thank you all for tuning in. Peace out.